Well, chatting now to Collins Chabane, Minister in the Presidency, responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation as well as administration. Thank you for your time this morning. You've heard.
Thank you very much. Yes.
You've heard what the South Africans are saying. Some sharing their experiences 18 years ago, and I've asked them a specific question: what they think of South Africa in 2012 and whether this is what they were voting for 18 years ago. And many of them seeming to feel that there's nothing to celebrate. What would you say to them?
In fact, the first point to make is that when South Africans took up arms and fought the apartheid regime, what motivated them was different reasons, but the totality of it was that they were responding to oppression. Some of them is because maybe the education system was not good. Some probably is because they have been arrested unfairly. Some is because they were exploited at work. Some is because they were farm workers. So a number of range of reasons. So even when you assess the feeling, how people feel now, people are going to experience freedom differently. For example, somebody who's in an informal settlement will not feel the same as somebody who's in Santen. Somebody who's not educated won't feel the same. So it's the totality of the feeling of South Africans which is important, because that is what symbolizes what South Africa is. But nobody can deny that we've made significant progress in a number of areas. They have raised a range of issues, from crime, from everything else. You can't deal with them almost all the time, every one of them now, as we're sitting here. But those are significant views from South Africans. We don't have to get angry about them. We might not like what they are saying, but I think it's how they experience it. For us is to try and see, okay, fine, you are in an informal settlement. These are the challenges you are facing. What is it that we can do to help you to get out of that situation? For example, if somebody complains about crime, that, since freedom, people are getting killed, as if it's government which is killing the people. It's not government. It's people themselves killing each other. Criminals taking advantage of society. But the role of the government, what then do you do, both in terms of crime prevention and ensuring that those who commit crime are actually jailed? And everybody can agree that significant crimes have been reduced, except domestic crime, domestic violence, house robberies, and so on and so forth, which are too private. But the major crimes like haste in the highways and so on, those have been reduced significantly because the police are working day and night to do that. So if all of us assist the police, we should be able to overcome those issues.
So how do you measure the totality of how South Africans as a group feel? Because that is something that's very difficult. I could ask a simple question now and say, so are you as a South African as a whole happy? And I'm probably going to get 49 million different answers from South Africans.
Yes, there are scientific ways in which you are able to do that, and that is why you have people who do research, do statistics, who survey the mood of the nation. They might not survey everybody, but if you could recall, most of the things which they pull out is almost accurate, even if they've taken a small sample. And that is the role of most of these research institutions which we have, even private ones, to say, hey, this is what we are seeing, this is what people are saying, and this is what they are thinking. So it's able to give us a general thinking as to how the people feel. For example, we operate a hotline in the Presidency, where we talk directly to citizens. We are able to know what are the critical issues which affect our people, because they call there to look for basic services like housing and so on and so forth. So those type of surveys assist us to understand the nature of the psychology of South Africans as they respond to the freedom which we have.
And I want to hear what people are saying on that hotline, but let's just take a call from Sichaba in Standerton. Hi, Sichaba.
Thank you, Ziggy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ziggy. The political settlement that was achieved in '94 was very significant as another phase of our struggle. Because the ballot was secured, and the ballot that gave us a political power, and the political power that would have been translated to a total freedom. Like for instance, the way we have envisaged our freedom as South Africans. Like, for instance, if I can make you an example, is that as the minister has articulated, that people were responding to different feelings that they were feeling in terms of oppression. But nevertheless, the main problem was colonialism, apartheid, and many other forms of oppression that our people, like for instance, experienced. So what is most unfortunately is that those people that we have voted, I mean, they've not translated the political power that we have given to them, that they must give us the real freedom. Like for instance, even today, our people are being evicted on farms by the same people that we have put into power. We still do not have our own land we still do not have our own land that we believe that it was stolen from us. We still do not have the economic power, the things that the people that we have put into power that they were supposed to be given to us. So the problem it is with us, the voters. So which means in '94 we voted wrong, even though other parties like the PAC, they came out clearly, they told us that land first all shall follow, but we never listened to them. We ran away. We ran for bread and butter issues, like for instance the things that were said by the ANC, and so which means we voted wrongly. But we believe that right now we are being conscientized and we see that we've been taken for a right, but we will mend our ways of voting as South Africans as the times goes along. But nevertheless, we cannot say that 94 was not a political, was not a significant phase of our struggle. It was very significant because it secured that ballot and we put up the wrong political party. That was us, the voters. But so as time goes on, I hope we will mend those ways. Thank you, Sigi.
All right. Thanks, Chaba. That's Chaba in Standerton. Angelosity on Twitter says, 18 years ago, I was in grade 1. I don't recall anything. Freedom means the ability to be self in society, trying to define you on a daily basis. And SMS from Zach Madela. Madela says, had full belief and trust in our black leaders, thought hard work would pay off, sincerely believed in them, but not anymore. Corruption is driving me nuts. And someone says, it's AB, Siki, these politicians patting themselves on the back make me laugh. We are worse off than 18 years ago. Mike in Cape Town is spot on. I'll read more, but I think I want to pick up on what Sichaba in Standerton was saying, because he's saying that 1994 was definitely a watershed. You can't take that away from it, because we're able to secure that ballot, but it just hasn't translated into the other freedoms. So freedom to gain back your land, freedom to not be evicted, and so on.
Yes, what is it that we thought we were fighting for and we want to achieve? We said we want a democratic, non-racial society and prosperous South Africa, which will be non-sexist. Which of these issues could be achieved in a short space of time? Yes, democracy we got. Can you achieve non-racialism in 18 years? No, you can't. It's impossible. We have got to deal with the change of mind of society. Take generations for us to overcome that part. Can you achieve absolute prosperity without having dealt with the racial question? No, it's not possible. So these things will have to go part by part. And that is why you have programs which you say in these 5 years or in these 2 years, this is what we're going to do and achieve. That is what you need to measure as to whether, when we have agreed we are going to do the following things in the next year, have we achieved those? What are the difficulties and which ones we have not achieved? If you measure it in that way, you are going to recognize that some of the things which we think we have not achieved, we have achieved. Where we have not achieved, you'll be able to identify what the obstacles are. And that is why, from time to time, you change policies. You respond to your experience. This is what we have seen, and that's why we're changing. So people should not give up, not on the ANC. They should not give up on the hope to build a new South Africa, whichever party they belong to. That for me is not the issue. Is they should not give up to participate, to ensure that all of us are working towards one goal, that's to build a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous country.
Now, one of the things in this year's theme is and that jumps out is the word unity, and part of what you were talking about there is building that non-racial, non-sexist society that is one society rather than the many societies of the past. And the statement in the key messaging for the day says, on this day we recommit ourselves to heal the divisions of the past and firmly establish a society based on democratic values, social justice and respect for fundamental human rights. But who's involved in making that commitment? Do you involve broader society in that?
Obviously, you would know that the institutions which have been set in place by government to allow society to have a role in doing that. One of them is the democratic institutions of governance, which we have from local government to national and the elections which people go through from time to time, that they should refrain from voting on racial patterns. Political parties need to teach people, and I think all political parties are trying to do that. Two is that we've got institutions which we have established, like the Human Rights Commission, whose main task is to ensure that to guarantee the rights of citizens. And in that process, they're supposed to educate the nation and also to try and bring them together. We've got a lot of institutions, the Pan-African Language Board, South African Language Board, which is supposed to deal with the equality of languages in the country and their development. A number of cultural institutions, both within government and in civil society. Now, if you take the totality of those institutions, it's a great effort by a nation to reach out to each other. But as you know, diverse as we are, and especially when we're facing a crisis, everybody begin to look at himself or herself in terms of language, in terms of region,
in terms of race,
in terms of race, in terms of religion.
What does that tell us about the effectiveness then of these institutions? Should we not rethink them, reconstitute them, find different ways in how they can work?
We may think so, but if we have to take on the experience of other nations, which nations have achieved a complete united front in a diverse society, you must let's take the continent itself. South Africa is the only country which has got the highest number of Europeans or whites, right? And people of Indian origin, and so it's the only country in the continent. Otherwise, most of them are homogeneous. They don't face the similar challenges which we have. They will face tribalism, ethnicity here and there, religious this, but with us it's too complex. Not even Europe compares to us. So we have got no body to lend to. It's ourselves who must make it work. And if we come back together, all of us, we try to make all these institutions and play our part, we think generations to come will overcome it.
It's here from Funani in East London, and sorry, just in the background there, it's the bikers, so you'll have to forgive us for the noise. Hi, Funani.
I'm on the side of the road, so I hope you'll hear me.
No, we can hear you.
Yes. I think there are many things we can raise on what your guest is saying, but I just want to pick one, the one on racism. You see, in the past, we used to have discrimination on the basis of race. And whether you like it or not, it is black people in the main who were discriminated against. But now we have a different form of discrimination. It's an economic discrimination. Sadly, it is black people who are also suffering. But it's not as it used to be the case where people were discriminated. Now, with this economic discrimination, which is actually formalized by the Constitution, you find that if you are closer to those who wield power, it keeps us safe from discrimination or something. Look at the Constitution, it will tell you the rights. It doesn't talk about access to those rights. So at least President Chabane, these children will have a right to education, to health, and that kind of thing, while some of us, our children will not have the same rights. So even though the right is there, it definition of the right and access to that right. That's one thing.
All right. Funani, your line is deteriorating, so I'm going to have to let you go. And I'm not sure if it's our fault with the bikers or if it's your fault with you standing on the side of the road. There's nothing we can do about that, so you're going to have to just bear with us. Tabiso in Soweto, good morning.
Hi, Siki, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Tabiso.
I think we just have to be honest, I mean, the ANC must concede that, the agreement that they had in 1994, it was elitist in nature. In other words, it was an agreement between the National Party and the ANC leaders, And then, in the main, there was an intellectual lacking in understanding the structure of South African economy, Because when you look at what is happening today, you find that the ANC people themselves, they are colluding, with the people who arrogated, things like minerals unto themselves, without making any concession to the black populace. And then also when you look at fundamental things like education, even the economic policies, I mean, how many economic policies has ANC came up with? So for me, I think that, ANC must just agree that they failed, And to give ANC another 5-year term into government, Siki, we are doomed, They don't know what they are doing, as Melissa Mbeki has observed, Ideologically, they are stuck. We just have to form a constituent assembly as Africans to see how we can benefit from our mineral. ANC is misrepresenting us. in this economic sphere. Thank you.
Thanks, Tabiso. Some SMSs. Someone says, freedom for who? Yes, freedom for the ANC government to steal more. And Bongani in the Eastern Cape says, to me, this day does remind me big men and women of our country who threw whatever they had at their disposal to open this, but the chains are still locked. D in Cape Town says, why is everyone so negative? We should rather count our blessings. And someone says, in 1994, I was a party agent at the small neglected backwater of Riebeek East in the Eastern Cape, full of optimism. Riebeek East is now even more neglected and forgotten. And Dudu says, apartheid days were better. ANC freedom is worse. Bring back white rule. What would you say to that, Minister?
Obviously, people have got the right to express themselves in the manner in which they want to. That's the beauty about South Africa, that people are able to express themselves. And those who want to campaign for political office or for campaign for their political parties have got the right to do so, as they reflect this and they interact with other members of society, either through radios or through the electronic media which we have now. But the fact of the matter is that you can't say we have not made progress. That everybody knows is not true. Give me one country where a government build houses and give houses for free for their people. One country only. It's not possible. A lot of countries are struggling to provide for these services. Give me a number of countries which provide what we call a minimum basic services to the indigent, the unemployed, an allocation on electricity, an allocation on water, social grants for children, social grants for the elderly, free education for the most disadvantaged communities. Now we're moving into a comprehensive national health system where we are trying to make sure that the rights which are enshrined in the Constitution, at least people have access to them. But you can't do these things almost at the same time to everybody, everywhere. It's not possible if we have to be realistic. But progressively, we have been able to achieve quite a number of things which other people obviously would not have satisfied every citizen in the country. But we think we have made significant progress.
So what is the overriding message of this day then?
The overriding message of this day is that it's unity of our nation. All of us should work towards uniting our nation, uniting our people wherever we are. If we can make it our point, that whoever is doing anything in the country to work to unite and to avoid a situation where our society will. And secondly, that we should work towards a prosperous society. We should work towards encouraging not to participate. Those of us who have got resources, like business people and governments and institutions, we have got resources to invest our resources to help to alleviate the issue of poverty and to fight unemployment in the country. Once we can achieve those two things, we think between now and the next celebration of Freedom Day, we would have done much for our people.
I didn't ask you where you were on this day 18 years ago.
At that time, I was the provincial secretary of the ANC in Limpopo, the then Northern Transvaal. I was in charge of the whole administration and the machinery of running the elections for the ANC. So I had to run from one polling booth to the other, one voting stations, one village to the other, solving problems of party agents, you remember that time it was still very tense.
Yes.
It was still very tense. We have to sit in the peace committees to negotiate the disputes which arises from the various voting stations. We didn't have to sleep because we have to make sure that the ballot boxes are transported properly. There's counting. So I was running almost all over in most of the parts of the province to try and resolve and assist.
So it's a bit of a blur for you that day because you were up and down.
Yes, after voting I just ran around and did all that type of thing. But it was a very, very wonderful day. If you think of it, at that point in time, to recall and recollect where you are coming from and the number of people you have missed, those who have died during the struggle, and you look at the generation, old people who have been standing in the queues at that time. It was very touching. It was very touching to see, for the first time, blacks want to take charge of their own destiny. And it was a very wonderful feeling for us.
We'll have to leave it there. Thanks, Minister, for your time this morning. Minister, for your time this morning. Minister, for your time.